I inherited $40 million from my estranged grandfather, but had to hide it from my boyfriend for 6 months, while we lived in a creepy mansion as part of a secret test. So when he finally discovered the truth, he called me manipulative and left. I'm Jenny, 28F, and my ex-boyfriend is Alex, 30M. We dated for 4 years before everything fell apart 3 months ago. I need to write this down because people keep asking why I'm living alone in a tiny apartment when I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Alex and I met at a coffee shop in Portland. He spilled his latte on my laptop and insisted on paying for repairs. We started talking and never really stopped. He worked as an accountant for a mid-sized firm. I did freelance photography, mostly weddings and local events. We weren't rich, but we managed. Our biggest problem was student loan. Between us, we owed about $180,000. Every month, nearly half our income went to loan payments. We talked about getting married but couldn't afford a ring, let alone a wedding. Alex grew up in a family that struggled with money. His dad lost his job when he was 12, and they had to move in with his grandparents for 2 years. He never forgot that experience. Sometimes he would look at our bank statements and go quiet for hours. He started picking up extra clients on weekends. I would find him at 2 a.m. doing spreadsheets, trying to figure out how we could save faster. He never said he resented our situation, but I could see it wearing him down. What Alex didn't know was that my family had money, a lot of it. My father came from the Whitmore family, old money from timber and railroads. My parents got divorced when I was 7. My mother took me and left everything behind. She worked as a teacher and raised me in a regular neighborhood. She never spoke well of my father's family. She said they were cold people who valued their bank accounts more than their children. My father remarried within a year and had 2 more kids. I saw him maybe 6 times growing up. He sent birthday cards with checks that my mother always tore up. My grandfather was Vincent Whitmore. He owned half of Cedar County and lived in a massive estate called Whitmore Hall. I met him exactly 4 times in my life. The last time was at my high school graduation. He showed up uninvited, shook my hand, said I looked like my grandmother, and left. My mother was furious. She told me to stay away from that side of the family. I listened. When Alex and I started dating, I told him my parents were divorced and my father's family was distant. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. 4 months ago, I got a call from a law office. The man on the phone said his name was Robert Chen from Chen & Associates. He told me my grandfather had passed away 2 weeks earlier. I didn't even know he was sick. Mr. Chen said I needed to come to his office for the reading of the will. I asked if this could be handled over email. He said no. I had to appear in person, and it was urgent. I told Alex I had to go sign some paperwork for a distant relative who died. He asked if I was okay. I said yes, I barely knew the man. Alex offered to come with me. I said it wasn't necessary. I went alone to a law office in downtown Portland. The office looked like it hadn't been redecorated since 1950. Dark wood everywhere, paintings of ships on the walls. Mr. Chen was about 60 years old with gray hair and reading glasses. He had me sit down and started reading from a document. My grandfather's will left small amounts to various cousins and charities. Then Mr. Chen stopped and looked at me over his glasses. He said the bulk of the estate, valued at approximately $40 million, plus Whitmore Hall and several properties, was being left to me. I couldn't process what he said. He kept talking. There was a condition. To receive anything beyond $10,000, I had to live at Whitmore Hall for 6 consecutive months. Alex had to live there with me for the entire duration. I was not allowed to tell Alex or anyone else about the will, the money, or the condition. A property manager would check on us weekly to verify we were both there. If I told Alex the truth, if he left early, or if I failed to complete the 6 months, the entire inheritance would go to a conservation fund. Mr. Chen handed me another document. It was a letter my grandfather had written. The letter explained that I could tell Alex we needed to live at the house to prepare it for sale as part of the estate settlement. We could live there rent-free as caretakers. After 6 months, the house would be sold, and I would receive a small inheritance from the proceeds. I sat in that office for an hour. Mr. Chen waited. He said I could decline the entire thing and walk away with $10,000, or I could accept the terms. I thought about our student loans. I thought about Alex doing spreadsheets at 2 a.m. I thought about never worrying about money again. I signed the papers. I went home and found Alex making dinner. He asked how the meeting went. I told him the story from the letter. My grandfather had left me his old house. The estate needed someone to live there for 6 months to handle preparations for sale. We could live there completely free. After 6 months, the house would sell, and I'd get maybe $50,000 or $60,000 from the estate. Alex stirred the pasta and asked where the house was. I said Cedar County, about 40 minutes outside Portland. He asked how big it was. I said big. It was an old estate house. He put down the spoon and asked why my grandfather would leave me anything when I barely knew him. I said, I didn't know, maybe guilt. Alex asked if we had to do this. I said yes, it was in the will. If we didn't live there, I'd get nothing. He didn't say anything for a while. Then he mentioned that our lease was up in 2 months anyway. Living rent-free for 6 months meant we could save about $12,000. That money could go straight to our loans. He asked if the house was livable. I said yes, it was fully furnished. He asked about internet since he worked from home 2 days a week. I said the estate probably had internet installed. Alex agreed. He said it sounded like a weird situation, but free rent for 6 months was too good to pass up. We could treat it like an adventure. We started packing the next week. Whitmore Hall was nothing like I remembered backyard from my childhood. I had only seen the outside once when I was 9. Up close, it looked like something from a Gothic novel. 3 stories of gray stone, narrow windows, a tower on the north side. The driveway alone was half a mile long. We pulled up with our car packed full of boxes and clothes. A man was waiting by the front door. He introduced himself as Mr. Garrison, the property manager. He was tall and thin, maybe 70 years old, with a face that showed no expression. He handed me a set of keys and said he would come by every Thursday morning to check on the property. He showed us around quickly. The house had 23 rooms. Most were closed off and covered in dust sheets. The kitchen had appliances from the 1970s. The heating system made clanking noises. The bathroom on the second floor had rust stains in the tub. Mr. Garrison said the internet router was somewhere in the house, but he didn't know where. He said my grandfather didn't use computers. There was phone service, but cell reception was poor because of the surrounding hills. He left us there with instructions to call his office if anything broke. Alex walked through the main hall and looked at the paintings and old furniture. He said it felt like we were house-sitting for a museum. I tried to laugh. That first night, we slept in a bedroom with a 4-poster bed that squeaked every time we moved. The house was cold. The heating only worked in some rooms. Alex said we could make this work for 6 months. The first month wasn't terrible. Alex drove to his office 3 days a week instead of 2 because the internet at the house was almost unusable. He found the router in a closet on the 3rd floor, but it was so old it barely functioned. He bought a signal booster and ran cables through the hallways. It helped, but not much. He started going to a library 15 miles away just to attend video meetings. The house had constant problems. The hot water worked randomly. Sometimes we had hot showers, sometimes the water was freezing. The stove only had 2 working burners. The washer made a grinding noise that sounded like something was dying inside it. I spent my days trying to clean rooms and make the place livable while doing my photography work on my laptop in the one spot with decent internet. Alex started coming home late. He said his boss was annoyed that he kept missing meetings because of connection issues. He asked again why we had to be the ones living here. Why couldn't the estate hire a property management company? I repeated the story. The will required family to live here. It was only for 6 months total. We were almost through month 2. Month 3 is when everything started going wrong. Alex's firm had a major client presentation. He needed to be on a video call for 4 hours. The internet went out completely the morning of the presentation. He drove to the library, but they were closed for renovations. He ended up sitting in a McDonald's parking lot for 4 hours on his phone hotspot. When he got home, he didn't speak to me. He went straight to the bedroom and closed the door. The next morning, he asked me how much money I was actually getting from this estate. I said probably around $50,000. He did math out loud. We were saving about $2,000 a month on rent. Over 6 months, that's $12,000. So the total benefit was $62,000. But he was damaging his career and possibly risking his job. Was $62,000 worth that? I didn't know what to say. He said this whole thing didn't make sense. Why would my grandfather care if I lived here? Why was this in the will? I said I didn't know. Rich people do strange things. He said I never told him my grandfather was rich. I said he wasn't rich. He just had this house. Alex stared at me. He said the house was clearly worth millions, and I had lied about not having a wealthy family. We had our first real fight that night. He said I had been dishonest about my background. I said my mother raised me normal, and I never had anything to do with my father's family. He said that wasn't the point. The point was I had made a decision that affected both our lives without being honest about what we were getting into. I said he agreed to this. He said he agreed based on what I told him, which wasn't the complete truth. Month 4 was mostly silence. Alex worked late every night. He started sleeping in one of the other bedrooms because he said the squeaky bed was keeping him awake. Mr. Garrison came by every Thursday. He would walk through the house, check that we were both there, and leave without saying much. One Thursday, Alex asked Mr. Garrison directly why this arrangement was necessary. Mr. Garrison said he didn't write the will. He just managed the property. Alex asked when exactly the house would be sold. Mr. Garrison said that would be handled after the 6-month period ended. Alex asked if I could just sign papers to speed this up. Mr. Garrison said no. The terms of the will were clear. After Mr. Garrison left, Alex said he felt like we were in prison. I said we could leave anytime. He said no, we couldn't, because I would lose the inheritance. He said he was doing this for me, and it was destroying his life. I didn't respond. What could I say? Month 5 started with a storm. The power went out on a Tuesday night. Alex had a huge presentation on Wednesday for a potential client that could bring in $1 million for his firm. He needed his laptop, his files, his internet connection. He couldn't do any of it from the house. He started packing a bag at 10 p.m. He said he was driving to a hotel in Portland. He would do the presentation from there. I asked when he would be back. He said he didn't know. Maybe a few days, maybe longer. I panicked. If he left, even for one night, I failed. Mr. Garrison would find out. The whole thing would collapse. I told Alex he couldn't leave. He asked why not. I said because we agreed to 6 months. He said he was losing his job over this, and I was being selfish. I started crying. I told him he had to stay. He asked what was wrong. Why was I acting like this over a house? I couldn't answer. I just kept saying he couldn't leave. He got quiet. He said I was scaring him. Something was very wrong and I needed to tell him what was happening. He said he was going to find a better internet connection in this house if it killed him. There had to be something. He went down to the first floor with a flashlight. I followed him. He started opening doors to rooms we had never been in. Most were locked. He found my grandfather's study. The door was locked. Mr. Garrison had told us that room was off limits for legal reasons until the estate was settled. Alex kicked the door. It took 3 tries, but the frame splintered and the door opened. Inside was a desk, filing cabinets, and bookshelves. He went straight to the desk looking for router information or a manual. I stood in the doorway. I knew what was about to happen. He pulled out drawers. Most were empty. One was locked. He used a letter opener to pry it open. Inside was a folder, a thick folder with legal documents. He pulled it out and started reading by flashlight. It was a copy of the will, the real one, with my name, his name, the $40 million, and every single condition, including the one about not telling. He read it twice. Then he looked at me. He asked what this was. I couldn't speak. He read sections out loud. The part about me not being allowed to tell him. The part about him having to stay for 6 months. The part about the $40 million. He put the papers down on the desk. He asked how long I had known. I said since the beginning. He asked if I had planned to tell him. I said yes, after the 6 months. He asked why. I said because the will said I couldn't. He walked past me out of the study. I followed him upstairs. He went to the bedroom where he had been sleeping and started packing everything. I tried to explain. I said the money would clear all our debts. We could have bought a house, started a family, never worried about money again. He kept packing. He said I had lied to him for 5 months. I had let him damage his career, hate his life, and suffer in this house as some kind of test. I tried to say it wasn't like that. He said it was exactly like that. My grandfather had set up a test to see if he was good enough for the family money, and I had gone along with it. He picked up his bags. I asked where he was going. He said anywhere else. I said I would lose the inheritance if he left. He said that wasn't his problem anymore. I followed him down the stairs. I asked him to wait until morning. He said no. I stood in front of the door. He walked around me and went out into the rain. I sat on the floor in the entrance hall until morning. Mr. Garrison showed up for his Thursday check at 9 a.m. He asked where Alex was. I said he left. Mr. Garrison made a phone call. Then he told me I needed to be out of the house within a week. I called Mr. Chen's office that afternoon. I told him Alex had found the will and left. Mr. Chen said he would review the situation with the estate trustees and get back to me. I said I failed the test. He said he understood. I moved out 3 days later. I went back to Portland and found a studio apartment. I sent Alex multiple emails. He didn't respond. I called his phone and he had blocked my number. I sent a letter to his office. His assistant called me and asked me not to contact him again. Update 1. I got a letter from Mr. Chen's office about a month after I moved out of Whitmore Hall. The letter said the estate trustees had reviewed my case. There was an addendum to the will that I had not been informed about previously. The addendum stated that if I followed the terms of the will but ultimately failed because I chose to be honest with Alex after he discovered the truth, rather than continuing to lie. This would demonstrate I valued the relationship over the money. In that case, the inheritance would be released to me in full. Mr. Chen called me 2 days after I received the letter. He said the trustees had determined that I met the conditions of the addendum. Alex leaving after discovering the truth on his own satisfied the requirement. The $40 million would be transferred to my account within 30 days. Whitmore Hall and the other properties would be transferred to my name. I sat in my apartment and read the letter 5 times. My grandfather had built in a backup test. The real test wasn't whether Alex would stay. It was whether I would value him over the money. By keeping him there against my better judgment, by lying for 5 months, I had actually failed the test my grandfather intended, but by not continuing to lie after he found out, I had passed the addendum requirement. The money appeared in my account 3 weeks later. I logged into my bank and saw $40 million. I also received deeds to Whitmore Hall, 2 rental properties in Portland, and a vacation house on the coast. I tried to contact Alex one more time. I sent an email explaining the addendum, explaining that the inheritance came through, and explaining that I had been stuck in an impossible situation. I said I knew I had made a terrible choice, but I wanted him to understand what happened. I said we could use the money to start over. He responded 3 days later. It was 1 sentence. He said I had gotten what I wanted and he hoped it was worth it. I hired a property management company to handle Whitmore Hall and the rental properties. I sold the vacation house because I couldn't stand to look at it. I paid off my student loans. I paid off my mother's mortgage. I set up a trust fund. I put most of the money into investments that a financial advisor recommended. None of it felt like winning. I had money that I would never be able to spend. I had properties I didn't want. I had a legacy from a grandfather who had manipulated me from beyond the grave. I saw Alex once. About 2 months after everything ended, I was at a coffee shop, and he walked in with someone, a woman. She was laughing at something he said. They ordered coffee and sat by the window. I left before they saw me. My mother called me after she realized her mortgage had been paid off. I explained everything. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said this was exactly why she left my father's family. They couldn't just give something. They had to make it a game. She asked if I was okay. I said yes. She said she didn't believe me, but she wouldn't push. I moved out of the studio apartment into a nicer place. 2 bedrooms, new building, good view. I work less now because I don't have to work at all. I pick up photography jobs when they sound interesting. Mostly, I try to figure out what to do with my time. People from my father's side of the family started contacting me, cousins I had never met, aunts and uncles who didn't come to my high school graduation. They all wanted to reconnect. I didn't respond to any of them. Mr. Chen called me once more, about 3 months after the inheritance came through. He said there was one more document my grandfather had left, a letter addressed to me personally, to be delivered after the inheritance was settled. He asked if I wanted it sent to my address or if I wanted to pick it up. I said send it. The letter arrived a week later. I let it sit on my kitchen counter for 4 days before I opened it. Update 2. The letter from my grandfather was handwritten. His handwriting was shaky but readable. It was 2 pages long. He wrote that he knew I probably hated him. He said he didn't blame me. He explained that he had watched my mother leave with me when I was a child, and he hadn't stopped her because he thought she was right. He said his family had valued money over people for generations, and it had made them miserable. He said my father had turned out exactly the same way. Cold, distant, caring more about stock portfolios than his own children. He wrote that when he got sick 2 years ago, he started thinking about what he would leave behind. He didn't want to just hand $40 million to me and watch me turn into another person who valued money over relationships. He wanted to know if I was different. He wanted to know if I would choose a person over wealth. He said the will and the conditions were his way of testing that. He wrote that he hoped I had passed. He hoped I had chosen Alex over the money. But he also knew that $40 million was hard to turn down. He wrote that if I was reading this letter, it meant I had either passed or failed. But either way, I had the inheritance now. He said he hoped I would use it better than his children had. The last paragraph said he was sorry. He was sorry for not being in my life. He was sorry for making me choose between love and money. He was sorry for being the kind of person who thought a test like this was a good idea. He said he hoped I would forgive him eventually, but he understood if I didn't. I burned the letter in my kitchen sink. I watched it turn black and curl up and disappear. Then I poured water over the ashes and washed them down the drain. I started volunteering at a youth center in Portland. They ran photography workshops for teenagers who couldn't afford equipment. I donated cameras and lighting equipment. I taught a class on Tuesday evenings. It gave me something to do. One of the instructors at the youth center asked me out for coffee. His name was David. He taught music classes. I said yes. We went out twice. Both times were fine. He was nice. He made jokes. He didn't ask too many questions about my life. On the 3rd date, he asked if I wanted to come to a concert with. I said no. He asked why. I said I wasn't ready. He said okay, and we haven't spoken since. My mother came to visit me at my new apartment. She walked around looking at everything. She asked if I was happy. I said I was fine. She said that wasn't what she asked. I didn't answer. She made tea and we sat on my couch. She said she had been thinking about my grandfather's will. She said he had always been manipulative. Even when she was married to my father, he would play games with people to see how they reacted. She said she was sorry I had inherited that from him. I asked her if she thought I made the right choice. She asked which choice. I said lying to Alex. She was quiet. Then she said there was no right choice in the situation my grandfather created. He had set up a game that I couldn't win. If I had told Alex the truth, I would have lost the money. If I kept lying, I would have lost Alex. Either way, someone was going to get hurt. She asked if I had tried to contact Alex again. I said yes. Multiple times. She asked what he said. I told her about the 1-sentence email. She nodded. She said some things couldn't be fixed. She said she knew that better than anyone. A few weeks after my mother visited, I got a message on LinkedIn. It was from Alex's best friend, Marcus. He said Alex had asked him to reach out. Alex wanted to know if I would be willing to meet in person to talk. I didn't respond for 3 days. Then I said yes. We met at a park near downtown Portland. Alex was already there when I arrived. He looked thinner. He was wearing a jacket I had bought him 2 years ago for his birthday. We sat on a bench near the river. He didn't look at me at first. He said he had spent the last 6 months thinking about what happened. He said he understood why I made the choices I made. $40 million was an impossible amount of money to turn down. Anyone would have struggled with that decision. But understanding why I did it didn't change what had happened. I had lied to him for 5 months. I had let him suffer through that house, watching his career take hits. And I never told him the truth. That broke something between us that couldn't be repaired. I asked if he read my email about the addendum. He said yes. I asked if that changed anything. He said no. The addendum just proved that my grandfather was playing games with both of us. He said he didn't want to be part of a family that tested people like that. He didn't want to marry into that kind of money. I said I would give it all away if it meant we could go back. He said we couldn't go back. That was the point. I had made my choice and now he was making his. He said he didn't hate me. He understood I was in a bad situation, but he couldn't be with someone who had lied to him for that long. He asked if I was doing okay. I said yes. He said he didn't believe me. I didn't argue. He said he wanted me to know he was getting married. The woman I had seen him with at the coffee shop, her name was Rachel. They had been dating for 4 months. He said it was fast, but it felt right. He said he was telling me because he didn't want me to find out from someone else. I congratulated. He said thank you. He said he hoped I found what I was looking for. Then he got up and walked away. Update 3. Alex got married 2 months ago. I know because Marcus posted photos on social media. The wedding was small, outside, lots of flowers. Rachel wore a simple white dress. Alex looked happy in the photo. I didn't go. I wasn't invited. I sold Whitmore Hall last month. A developer bought it for $8 million. They're going to turn it into a boutique hotel. I signed the papers and handed over the keys to Mr. Garrison, who managed the sale. I never went back there after the night Alex left. The youth center where I volunteer asked if I wanted to fund a scholarship program. Full photography scholarships for 10 students every year, covering equipment, classes, and mentorship. I said yes. They named it the Vincent Whitmore Memorial Scholarship. I let them. My grandfather wanted to leave a legacy. At least this way, it's helping people who actually need it. I'm seeing a woman named Lauren now. We met at a gallery opening. She's a sculptor. She doesn't know about the money. I told her I do photography and I inherited some savings from my grandfather. That's technically true. We've been on 6 dates. I like her. She makes me laugh. She doesn't ask about my past. I know I'll have to tell her eventually. About the money, about Alex, about everything. I don't know when that will be. Maybe in a few months, maybe next year, maybe never. I'm not in a hurry to repeat the same mistakes. My mother asks me every few weeks if I'm okay. I tell her yes. She stopped believing me, but she still asks. We have dinner once a month. She doesn't bring up my grandfather or the inheritance unless I mention it first. I usually don't. I think about Alex sometimes. I wonder if he's happy with Rachel. I wonder if he ever thinks about. I wonder what would have happened if I had just told him the truth from the beginning. Maybe we would have walked away from the money together. Maybe we would have done the 6 months knowing what it was. Maybe he would have left anyway. I don't have answers. I have $40 million and no one to share it with. I have a career I don't need. I have a life that's comfortable and empty. I have a grandfather who tested me from beyond the grave, and I'm still not sure if I passed or failed. People say money can't buy happiness. They're right, but poverty can't buy happiness either. At least now I can pay my bills. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not looking for advice. I just needed to write this down somewhere. I needed to put it all in one place so I could stop carrying it around in my head. Alex was right. I got what I wanted. I just didn't know the cost until it was too late. That's the end of it. No dramatic conclusion. No lesson learned. Just a woman with too much money and a life that doesn't feel like hers anymore. I keep going because that's what people do. I work, I volunteer, I date, I see my mother, I exist. That's all there is.